Good morning. I am Jessica Ori, the private sector liaison for the Mississippi Business Emergency Operations Center, and welcome to the Perfect Pitch series. The goal of this series is to provide you with pertinent information catered to your business and community regarding mitigation, specifically floodplain management, preparedness, and recovery. Today, we have Mr. Stacy Ricks, MEMA State NFIP Coordinator. He was nominated by his peers from across the country for the National Best State Compliance Award based on his contributions to floodplain management and flood loss reduction measures in Mississippi. Stacy and the floodplain management staff have developed substantial damage estimate and substantial improvement training for local communities, provided floodplain regulation. He also provided floodplain regulation courses for local officials and developed advanced training for floodplain administrators. Because of Rick's training to assist counties to remain compliant, Mississippi homeowners can purchase discounted flood insurance. Before we begin, I will ask that you direct your questions into the chat and they will be answered immediately after this presentation. I will now turn it over to Mr. Stacy Ricks.
Thank you, Jessica. Good morning, everybody. Again, my name is Stacy Ricks. I'm the state National Flood Insurance Coordinator. You will hear me use the acronym NFIP. It just stands for National Flood Insurance Coordinator. In MEMA, the National Flood Insurance Coordinator Bureau, Floodplain Management Bureau, is inside the Office of Mitigation. The Office of Mitigation has three areas. We're going to talk about the National Flood Insurance area today in the Floodplain Management Bureau, but it also our director of the Office of Mitigation is Jana Henderson. And just to share right quick for everybody, this is how the Floodplain Management Bureau is divided up. As you can see, it's multiple MEMA districts like every district has. We have 333 different NFIP communities. That means with only having 4 on staff, each floodplain specialist listed here has approximately 83, 84 NFIP communities that they work with on a daily basis. They have multiple districts in which they serve. Not only do we handle the aspects of NFIP compliance, we also have sub aspects like the community rating system. Community rating system is like a fire rating system. It gives discounts to communities that go above and beyond basic NFIP regulations. So Jonathan Hughes does community rating system and flood insurance on that part. Risk map. Risk map is where we develop the maps and with DEQ and FEMA. And it's a series of about anywhere from 3 to 5 years. Ramsey Sandifer and DK Garrett the clerk are the ones who work that program. Training and outreach is Peyton Robinson, and LOMAC violations, again, is Garrett the clerk. Today, Ramses and Garrett the clerk is in the field actually performing what we call community assistance visits, so they're not able to join us. But Peyton and Jonathan, if y'all are on, can you introduce yourselves?
Hey everybody, I am Jonathan Hughes. I cover MEMA districts 8 and 9, and I also do community rating system, the higher standard program, and work with flood insurance.
Hey everyone, my name is Peyton Robinson. I cover districts 1 and 4, and as Stacy said, I also do the education and outreach training.
All right, thank you. With the education and outreach, we give quarterly 30-minute brown bag seminars that we'll cover topics. We also cover NFIP topics. Now, this is going to be a real high view today. We have classes that last weeks. and you still don't get all the information about the National Flood Insurance Program. But just the general overview, the NFIP was actually created in 1968. And the reason it was is because flood and disaster costs kept rising over and over again. And Congress decided to create National Flood Insurance Program. At that time, there was no private insurance that would touch flood damages. Today, NFIP is still there, but we do have a couple of private flood insurance companies that will write policies in the state of Mississippi. Keep that in mind, that everything that we talk about will be the National Flood Insurance backed flood insurance policies or floodplain management that we talk about. Floodplain management is what we do for the most part, which means we work with the individual floodplain managers in all 333 NFIP communities, make sure their ordinance is up to date. You will also hear that Floodplain Management Bureau here at the office is MEMA's only regulatory bureau, because we do have the authority to go out and audit records, look at development to ensure that development is being built correctly by the NFIP. So the NFIP is voluntary. No one is required to join the NFIP. Plus, the NFIP is a quid pro quo program, which is basically this for that. So basically, a community agrees to adopt a regulation and enforce those regulations, and the federal government will provide flood insurance for that community, or the availability of flood insurance, should I say. So with that being said, share another screen here as we go forward. And let's talk about the bad. Lack of enforcement and suspension or withdrawal from the NFIP. So if a community does not join or get suspended through lack of enforcement or adoption of flood insurance rate maps, there are a list of things that can happen. Number one is flood insurance will be no longer available. NFIP-backed flood insurance will be no longer available inside that community. I have seen some of the private insurance policies, and on one of the policies, I actually saw that the community must be compliant with the National Flood Insurance Program. So even private insurance is putting that on them. So let's talk about what happens at this point. So a community can get suspended, and it's not all or nothing. Basically, when that flood insurance policy comes up for renewal, it will not be renewed. What will happen at that time is all the mortgages that are federally backed mortgages, the mortgage institution will do one of two things. They will call the loan due or force place that policy with Chubbs or Lloyd's of London or some high risk company. If they call the loan due, and this can be for businesses or homeowners, if they call the mortgage due, that means you have 30 or 45 days to pay off the remainder of your mortgage that you have. If they force place it with Chubbs or Lloyd's of London, you're fixing to pay a very high amount for flood insurance. So this is one of our biggest things, is we try to keep communities compliant in the National Flood Insurance Program and in good standing. If you're not compliant and in good standing, you could lead to suspension or probation in the NFIP. Another suspension is no federal grants or loans. And this could be HUD, this could be EPA, SBA, any federal agency loan. I tell this story all the time. I went to a community in North Mississippi went to the board meeting and I made the pitch of why you should join the NFIP. Board members was very nice to me and thanked me for my time, but they said, you know, we just don't want to tell people how to build on their land. So thank you, but no thank you. I come back and I was sitting in my office the very next week and my phone rings. And it was the board attorney saying, how quick can we get in this national flood insurance program? And I said, hey, what's going on? You know, I thought y'all didn't want to join. Well, basically it had hit the front page of the paper that if you'll look at number 4, as I scroll down, no federal mortgage insurance is available. So basically a soldier had come back home. He had applied for a VA home loan and could not get it because the community did not participate in the National Flood Insurance Program. And they was in a hurry actually to get in to be able to allow this. But this is also FHA loans. So any federal mortgage insurance, any federal grants. Let's talk about federal disaster assistance. If a tornado comes through or a hurricane or flooding, no disaster assistance will be provided for special flood hazard area for permanent restorative construction. Basically, that means those people that live inside special flood hazard area, you have individual assistance that helps homeowners get back on their feet. That money is not available to them. And then you have PUB-PA, which is public assistance for actually the community governments of government buildings, roads, and bridges. That money's not available to them inside the special flood hazard area if they get suspended. And I skipped to number 7. The local governing body could be susceptible to liability because there's actually information out there that shows that there is a risk and the community is not doing what they can to reduce that risk. Also, if a homeowner gets denied and says, hey, your mortgage is due in 30 days, that would also open up a local government government to liability. So those are some of the bad things that actually come through in the NFIP. For the floodplain staff that you met and the 2 that you didn't, we basically monitor, evaluate, and pursue corrective actions taken by participating communities. We give general technical assistance to those local floodplain managers. As I said earlier, we're the only regulatory division, but we conduct compliance and technical visits throughout the state. We review records, we review development to make for sure that it does match with 44 Code of Federal Regulations 60.3 A through E. We also respond to disasters. And in responding to disasters, the local floodplain manager has a separate role in damages than the EMA director has for the county. Substantial damage is a more in-depth look at a structure, and you have different categories that you assign damage to. And then a program called the Substantial Damage Estimator by FEMA will tell us whether that structure is 50% damage or not. If a structure is deemed 50% damage or higher, that structure must come into compliance with the current ordinance and the effective flood insurance rate map for the area. We do all this to reduce the loss of life and property that's caused by flooding. And in doing that, we was talking about substantial damage. We do not just look at damage from flooding. This is damages of any origin. Any damage that happens to a structure must be looked at by the local floodplain manager. And a determination has to be made whether that structure is non-compliant or compliant. A lot of people think, since it's the National Flood Insurance Program, that it's only due to flooding, but it is damage of any origin. So as I end this today, I will show part of pictures that we have to show what we do during our SDE. So you see the pictures of the boat. We actually will get in boats. We will go out and look at high water marks to make for sure that we're seeing and we know the depth of flooding that is happening inside that community at the request of the local community. This is the damages that occurs. These are homes, but think that these could also be businesses. And as you're a business owner, think about how long it's going to take to repair this, how long it's going to cause business interruption in that community. But also look at it from the homeowners. These homeowners aren't able to get back in, they're repairing or they're living somewhere else. This is pictures of the teams actually going out and doing local surveys that we have to do individually, looking at it for the NFIP. Again, some pictures of more staff. We also have to be ready for the media. You can see in the picture on the right, WLBT called us out while we was doing our assessments. So a lot of people think, whenever they think about floodplain management, they look at this building and they say, why in the world would you want to place a building this high? What's the purpose of this? You're just causing me extra money to go higher. And I always end with this one. This was on the Mississippi River flood. I think it's anywhere from 10 to 15 feet above the ground. This homeowner is going to get back into his or her house very quickly once the water goes down. They may have to fix a few things, but it's not like the pictures we saw earlier. But you can also look at it as this homeowner gets back into the normal swing of things after a flooding disaster. They're going to be going to work. They're going to be spending money, and they're going to help that local community speed recovery from the economic side of this. Now let's look at it if it was a building. I mean, a business. If we had the business where the pictures of the home earlier with flood damage, those businesses are going to be out of business if a flood hits them for weeks. If businesses are also built compliant with the NFIP, it stands a very good chance that that business will have very little to no flood damage and should be able to survive and get back to the base of operations and working on that local economy. That is one of the best pictures I can ever tell you right there about the National Flood Insurance Program. That's our goal. It saves lives if somebody was in that house because they're above that 10 to 15 feet deep of water there. And it's also protected that structure from damage. With that, I'll turn it back over to Jessica and see if there's any questions that she has or anything else that I need to share.
All right, looking at the chat, we have no questions. Any of you all have any questions, go ahead and key them up in the chat. We'll give you about a minute or so. Any comments? Well, all right, we do not have any questions. Mr. Stacy, thank you to you and your team for giving us valuable information. And you all, thank you for participating in today's event. On next week, we will have Mr. Julius Green from Preparedness and Recovery. See you all next week. Thank you for attending. I will send the information out for next week's series, next week's event shortly. Have a good day, everyone.